am so excited to kick off the Choose Happiness Powerful Women series with Jen Aylsworth coming to us from across Puget Sound from Seattle. Hi, welcome.
Hello.
I'm so happy to see you. Now, forgive the fangirling for just a moment, but we met in a play some years ago in Washington State, and you were the big star. I mean, you're so talented and so amazing. And I was really blown away by your talent, number one. But then you were so gracious to us, the peons in the chorus. I mean, really, I just remember seeing you perform, and then we would have these get togethers. And I remember thinking to myself, I want to be like her. She's really something. And I still feel that way. You're kind of still my idol. So what I wanted to say was, so then when I learned that you changed your last name at some point to assert your own power over your life, then you really achieved idol status to me. That's okay. So I mean, that's just such a huge, amazing thing to do. Can you share what your last name means and what gave you the courage to make that change in your life?
Of course. So when I made a decision that I was going to choose my own last name, I decided to go through a book so that I could look at last names and what last names mean. And I found Aylsworth spelled the way it is, Aylsworth. And it said awesome worth. And it said it was German. And I was like, well, I know I have German heritage because of my mom's maiden name and of what she told me about the immigration and all of that. So I went, yep, that's me. Awesome worth. Okay, Aylsworth, that's me. So that's how I found it.
Wow. Wow. Now, was it like a couple months decision? Did you decide on the spur of the moment? Like, what was in your mind when you decided to do that?
Well, it was really after my second divorce, and I didn't want to go backward in time. So I had my first married name, and then that changed to my second married name. And I went, I can't keep this because it just doesn't feel right because it's not me, not anymore. So I didn't want to go back to my maiden name. So I just thought, I'm going to, in the divorce process, because that's when it's the easiest to change your name, is you can do that you've never been divorced, you wouldn't know. I'm an expert. So in the divorce process, you are allowed to change your name. That's when you would either go back to maiden or go to something. So that's when I knew that I needed to look. So when I knew I was getting divorced, that's what prompted me to find the name that I wanted. So it was included in the divorce filing. So it was a legal name change. Yeah. So that's when that happened.
I love that so much because you did that to really take control of the next chapter of your life. And I think so often, I mean, names are so powerful. I think so often, especially as women, we feel like we have to take what's given to us, if you will. But then when we can make that choice and say, I am choosing to take what I believe I deserve and need, and making this lifelong, I mean, you see it every day. I mean, you see that. So that is extraordinary. Wow. What an inspiration.
Oh, well, the other thing is that I grew up with a W last name. I wanted an A last name because being a W, I was always at the end of every choice, whether it was in PE or whatever. And I went, I don't want to be at the end of the alphabet. I want to be at the beginning.
Oh, I love that. That's amazing. Oh, wow. Brilliant. When you really thought it through. I mean, you really thought through, the whole process. And
oh, I did.
wow.
Absolutely.
Oh, I love that. So you're such a brilliant performer. I mean, truly, you sing, you act, you dance, you can do it all and then some. And theater and music have always been a big part of your life. So when did you start performing, and at what point did you determine this is what I know I'm meant to do?
I was always performing along with the musicals that I watched as I was growing up. So I would always practice the Fred and Ginger moves, being Ginger. I would always try to do tap like Shirley Temple. I grew up watching all of these fantastic, incredibly talented, Hollywood performers. And then I would pretend like most little kids, you take your brush in the mirror in the bathroom and you pretend that you're doing a commercial or a something. But there wasn't anything available until high school. And it was an elective to choose drama. And I had to decide between drama and a language. And I just thought, wow, this is something I've always wanted to do. I have to have it. So that's when it first started. And I was just so thrilled because I could do choir and I could do drama. I didn't have to choose between either. Both worked collaboratively. So my first musical was Oklahoma. And I had grown up watching Oklahoma. So I was just overjoyed that that was the first one.
Wow.
And then from there, I just continued and I just did auditions for community theater and semi-professional theater in Seattle when I lived in Seattle. And it's always been a part of my life. It's been the avocation, not the vocation, but the avocation. So my love and my passion and all of that pouring out. Yeah, I have to have that as a compliment to the regular, corporate life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love that you mentioned that, because I think sometimes people will think, oh, well, I can do this, like for fun or whatever, and I'm going to have to give it up when I get a corporate job, or give it up when I become a mom, or they feel like they can't really marry the two together. And I know for someone like you, it's one of those things where like you have to do it. You're not you without doing that. So do you have any advice for someone who might want to try to balance the two? Because theater doesn't pay the bills, unfortunately. If only, but
Yeah,
you've got
not until you get to be a superstar. And even then, it's more, TV and movies pay better. So I put a lot of thought into this. I was really happy that you had given me an idea of your questions, because on one hand, I've been really fortunate because I didn't have children. I wasn't blessed with children, so I didn't need to juggle a job and the children and a partner and theater and all of this. But I have very, very close friends who had supportive partners, and that made all the difference for their ability to do what they loved, whether it was direct or perform or be the choreographer, whatever portion of live theater was their passion, their supportive partner helped them do that. So for me, I would say a supportive partner is critical if you're in a relationship. You have to have that, because otherwise that person can just hold you back, and you never want that. And as far as a job, I always wanted to make sure that my jobs were the sort of like Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 kind of general. And I was very fortunate that most of the time I could get that. So that all of those community theater, semi-professional roles I could do, because it's all evening rehearsals during the week. And then when you get closer to opening, it's weekends that then your time is taken. And then when the show opens, you've only got evenings, and that includes always Friday and Saturday, and then usually a Sunday matinee. So it works perfectly with your basic kind of Monday through Friday kind of job. Yeah.
That brings up something really interesting, because I think the supportive partner is so important, and we have to have the courage to tell the partner, this is really what I need from you. And I think sometimes we can be afraid, oh, I don't want to be a burden, or oh, I don't want to, take time away or whatever. But if this is really someone's passion and it really lights them up, we have to have the courage to go to that partner and say, hey, I need your help on this. And that can be really hard to do, I think, sometimes.
Yeah, I know that in talking, you know how much fun we had backstage in the dressing rooms, getting to know each other, and just sort of, it wasn't really, I don't consider it gossip. I always considered it the getting to know you time when we were doing our hair and our makeup and all that kind of stuff. And I would always be surprised whenever I would hear from a castmate that their significant other felt threatened by all the time that they were away. And it just seemed like such a heavy burden. And I just could not imagine being with someone who could not fully support that passion. And it's most of the time it was, you know, it was women like you whose partner either loved it as well or joined in just because they wanted to be by their sweetheart so that they would do something else. They do props, they would stage manage. There's so much you can do without having to be on stage.
Right.
So most of the time, most of us had all around us, we had people who understood the draw and the excitement and the thrill and just the love of theater in general. So it was very rare, but when that did happen, I was always surprised. And I thought, that's just such a burden to have someone who just doesn't understand,
Right.
you
Right.
know?
Mm-hmm. Wow,
I
that's
never had that. So yeah, I don't know that I would have ever married anyone if they had ever posed any sort of barrier, because that is so much a part of me that they knew that from the get-go.
right, right. And
So
that's important when someone's looking for a partner. Is it going to put on the table, this is what's really important to me, whether it's pottery or, whatever your art or whatever your hobby or, is, that this
yeah,
is kind of a deal breaker, so that's important to, again, it's about like asserting our power to say, here's what I need, and I'm not going to settle for this not being okay, but
exactly.
it's tricky because I think there's kind of like, well, if he likes to watch football, then I have to watch football or whatever it is. And
Hmm.
we diminish ourselves just so that we will get this partner. So
Hmm.
that's really good advice. That's excellent. And I also think we're taught as women often to be powerful. That means CEO, it means owning your own company, it means working 80 hours and raising children, et cetera, et cetera. Where I think the real power lies in being authentic and saying, I would much rather be able to pursue my passion and do this kind of a job to marry both than to do what social media says I have to do to appear powerful.
I think I think it's I think it's so much more open than it used to be. There is progress that's been made. We still have a long way to go, but I think that there's a lot less judgment as far as women choosing what they want for their fulfillment.
Mm.
It's still there, but I agree with you 1,000%. If a woman has always held in her soul the need to start her own business, create her own destiny, all of that, and that's her passion and focus, and she does still want children and she does still want a family, then it's not as mind-blowing as it was, 40 years ago.
Right,
That
right.
was, you need to choose one because you can't. And I think women just breaking the barriers and saying, I'm going to have the life that I'm choosing, regardless of what my ancestors have done or my parents and grandparents. And I think that depending upon, of course, the audience and who is judging you. I think that if, for me, I have my chosen family, I know I'm now an orphan, so I no longer have my parents. I didn't have any brothers and sisters, had no children. So what I've done is I've been able to handpick my chosen family. And those are the people that support and love what I love and support and love me regardless. So I've been very fortunate and been blessed with that, that I don't feel some external pressure from a birth family member who's looking down upon me and saying, well, I don't consider what you have done successful.
Mhm.
But not everyone has that benefit, but I'm very blessed that way.
And that speaks to, regardless of your circumstances, creating a community around you that lifts you up. Because
Exactly.
that again, that's so much of a choice, and that's so much of standing on our own power to say, you know, to like a friend or something, like, I know I've known you for 30 years, but if I met you now, I don't think we'd be friends. So, it's that sort of making the choice to say what's going to benefit me now and creating that community. Oh, that's so important.
It really is important.
Mhm.
It really feeds my soul to have this chosen family that I know has for me unconditional love.
Yeah.
It's very important at all points in my life. And
Mhm.
especially during the pandemic, because everyone was so isolated, but I didn't feel isolated because of, thank goodness, what we didn't have 100 years ago was all of the technology, Zoom and FaceTime. And I would tell people, I said, I remember watching the Jetsons cartoon when I was little and thinking, will I be alive when I can actually see someone's face on the phone? And it's like, we're here. It's amazing. We're here. I love it.
Wow, that's so true. I love that.
It's so cool.
Wow. Oh my God. Well, you are such an upbeat and positive person. You always have been. Can you share what are your secrets how you choose happiness in your life? I can feel it. I can feel it through the screen.
I'm really happy that you put that in and gave me a little bit of time to think about it, because it happened so long ago. I don't remember the source, whether it was a book that I read or I was going through counseling, or I don't remember, but the sort of aha moment for me was the whole uh you can choose everything but death and taxes. That was sort of this old kind of cliche sort of saying, and I read or heard or was part of something where it was, no, you can choose to not pay your taxes. Of course, all of us will die, but you can certainly choose to go earlier. So the kind of mind-blowing concept was, you can choose everything in your life. You can choose it all. You choose how you look at a situation. You choose to be angry. You choose to be happy. External forces are not what control you. You control you. You control your outlook. And that just completely changed my viewpoint on life, because my family of origin, I didn't get that reiterated and sort of instilled in me from birth. That was, there was, my mom was full of fear and she had her own issues to deal with, and so her viewpoint on life was completely polar opposite to that. It was, you know bad things are going to happen, and people don't change, and you're set in your ways. And so it was really a very limiting
Mhm.
perception that she had. So it just opened up the world to me. And it was like, everything is my choice. So I've always chosen. And then as time has gone on, it's become even more important. Expect nothing, appreciate everything.
Mm.
So just an attitude of gratitude for all of the amazing miracles that have happened in my life. And that's where it started, was that sort of mind-blowing concept of it's your choice. It was mind-blowing. It was just such, it was like discovering, the Titanic, that it was really there. It's like, what? And it just changed my outlook. So that was what happened. Yeah.
I love that so much, so much, because I think that so often we're in a situation and we really say to ourselves, it's just the way it is. I don't have a choice. Or somebody will hurt our feelings. And again, we can choose to take that as an insult or choose to not. And I just want to like keep going and going on this. It's mind blowing, because I think we really feel like so often we resign ourselves to, I have no choice. But if we think we always do, that's
exactly.
Wow. And when you frame it in those death and taxes, where we're all taught these are non-negotiables, and it's like, oh wait, well, if they are, that means that this and this and this could also be. Oh my goodness. I need just like a moment to like marinate for just a moment.
Exactly. It took me a while too. It wasn't something that was instantaneously a part of my DNA. It was mind-blowing. Because then you keep looking at all of these different situations and you think about things that maybe you did in the past that would be completely different now that you have this mindset. Right. And it really is like a science fiction concept.
Yeah. Yeah. And we put these parameters on us, like with regard to age or gender or whatever it is, that say, well, because of this, I must choose this. Mm-hmm. And if we can kind of break those all away and just say, no, what does my gut tell me, or what's right for me, that just opens up everything. Right. While I'm sitting here digesting this, please, can you tell us? Tell us what's happening with live theater where you are, and virtual performances, and are you in any shows coming up? Do you know, or we have to know where we can find you?
Oh, you're so sweet. Sadly, as I understand, most of the United States, we in this area are still not opening up for live theater. There are a few that I've received notices, postcards, programs and things, that they're doing a combination of virtual and live, but I haven't investigated exactly how they're pulling off the live. If they're doing that like movie theaters where they can regulate the 6 feet, they reserve in advance, they require masks. I'm not really sure how that can work. There's only one theater that I know of that is doing sort of the hybrid of virtual and in person. Most that I've worked with locally, there's nothing. The only thing they're doing is they're doing some virtual, like improv, Zoom kinds of shows. They're doing a cast reunion from previous seasons where all of the cast members who are available answer questions from the participants in the Zoom, and they talk about the experience and things like that. I am so much more looking for the experience of being in the audience, even more than being on stage, because it feeds my soul, and it's just been too long for that soul enriching experience of live theater. So my first hope is to be in the audience for it. And then once we sort of figure out where we are in the world post-pandemic or nearly post-pandemic, then it will be wonderful to see what opens up for performing, because so many people have made use of social media. And I found so many incredible performers, even on TikTok.
Wow.
And here I was thinking, I was thinking TikTok, when people talked about it, was like, oh, so it's just people trying to do dance moves other people have done, and that's really all it is. And then a friend of mine sent me a TikTok, and it was like, oh,
Yeah.
wait, this is all about a happy dog.
Yeah.
So I went, oh, there's animals on there, so I have to look.
Yeah.
And I can get pulled into the TikTok rabbit hole of 2.5 hours because of the talent that's on there.
Yeah.
It's completely amazing. Dancers and singers and songwriters and musicians. And it has fed my soul for that live theater part that had to shut down. It is so fantastic. So in trying to find the positive of a pandemic, that to me is a positive, is that people, that art found a way. And that rather than having to have a YouTube channel or posting to YouTube and hoping that people will find it, TikTok opened up the world, and these people have shared their art that way. And it's like, oh, it's just so fantastic.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So first I want to be in the audience, and then I want to be back on stage.
Awesome.
Yeah. But nothing yet. You just take it day by day and hope that more people get vaccinated.
Right. I know. We are counting the minutes ourselves, because we've always said, live theater can be so transformative because it's this community of people, and we're all sharing a moment in time that will never happen again. And it's magic. It really is. And that said, we're also grateful for things like TikTok, where we can see things we never would have seen before, and where the traditional way of having to get into a show or having to get a record contract or whatever, that is out the window now. So people can just share. And that's been beautiful. I think that's been really, a blessing of it all. Well, I have to let you go, but please tell us, what is one piece of advice you can give us for standing in our own power and being our authentic self and being more like you?
You're just so kind, Rachel. Oh my goodness. I would just say, I would say easily, just expect nothing and appreciate everything. I think it makes every day a miracle when you have that mindset. And it frees you from your expectations and your shoulds, and allows you to see possibilities in your life. So to me, that's the easiest. It's the easiest one to remember. And it's also, I think, applicable for all of us, men, women, teenagers. If we had sort of like a toddler's view of the world, that everything is magical.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember, speaking of TikTok, I have to tell you, the way I think of it is, it was supposed to be a joke that it was a banana, and this little toddler, her dad gave her a wrapped banana, and it was supposed to be a joke because he thought she was just going to say, oh, banana. She was overjoyed. Banana! Is that not the perfect way to live your life?
Yes.
And she was overjoyed.
Wow. Oh, I love that. Well, what I love about that attitude too is then you're really open. If you don't expect anything, you're open to whatever comes. And that's magnificent. And then to appreciate it when it does come. Oh, that's going to go on my mirror. I love that. Thank you.
Good. I'm so glad.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your wonderfulness and everything with us. You're just a joy. And like I said, you're my idol. Thank you.
Oh, Rachel, I love you.
I love you. Take care. Mwah.
Mwah. Bye.